Some years I don't put anything in these beds at all, but other years I really like to grow some stuff. And this, you know, we're blessed here in Southern California, even in the winter we can grow vegetables and things. So in this bed I have little lettuces, and then in this bed I have bok choy and Swiss chard and cabbages. And then these strawberry plants were actually a gift from an acquaintance. From the time that I was really a small child, I did a lot of singing. I just love to sing. And actually the Mennonites in general have a long tradition of vocal music. I actually entered college thinking that I would major in music, and I changed my major a few times and didn't end up pursuing that as a career path. But you know, there's always been music. I may live as long as thy sovereignty endures. I learned how to play the guitar just within the last few years during the pandemic, and it's also something that Tim and I share. We often will play games and play board games, and then while we do, we pass around the iPad and everybody picks tunes from Spotify. So we learn each other's music and we introduce the kids to things that we grew up listening to, and then they play things for us that we have no idea of. Make my prayer, oh my Lord, a fountain of living waters, whereby I may live as long as thy sovereignty endures, and may make mention of thee in every word of thy words, and may make mention of thee in every word of thy words, of thy words. I was diagnosed with cancer during the first year of the pandemic, and my mother went on hospice and was dying. And my sons graduated, like they spent the last part of their senior year of high school at home. Everything was disrupted. I spend a lot of my time writing. This is something I've wanted to do for many, many years. And I've had jobs that included a fair bit of writing in them, but I've always kept a journal for myself. But in recent times I've decided like I would really like to express myself through my writing, and to, you know, talk about the things that are close to my heart and that matter a lot to me. And so a year ago or so, a friend of mine who knew that about me told me that there was a Baha'i writers retreat happening last February, and invited me, like sent me the link for that. And it was on Zoom, of course, because of COVID, but I met this wonderful community of writers who are doing lots of different kinds of projects. And this year I'm helping to facilitate that same retreat. And it's happening this week, so every morning and every evening I'm on Zoom with these participants from Canada and the US, from Hawaii. There are about a dozen of us this year. My name is Michelle Goering, and I live in San Diego. I am a musician and a writer. I have a family of 4, my husband Tim, and I have twin sons who are 20 years old now, which I can hardly believe, Miles and Gabriel. I was born in outside of a very small town in Kansas. The town is Gossel, and we had a farm there. My mother grew up Amish, Old Order Amish in Napanee, outside of Napanee, Indiana. She was one of 5 children, the oldest of 5 actually. And so, the Amish, that branch of Amish is very conservative, no electricity, no cars, they wear plain dress and always a head covering. Very, religious family. My mother liked to work with her hands and to make things. She did a lot of gardening. She had a huge strawberry patch. My father is one of 8 children, and he grew up on a farm, also in about an hour from where I was raised, in a Mennonite family. And they also didn't have a lot of money. He, worked really hard as a kid. His father was very conservative and really kind of opposed to higher education because he thought it would lead his children away from God. He thought that it would make them too worldly, right, and lose sight of the things that really mattered. But my father's older brother had polio as a child, and so because he was partially, he had a limp ever after that, and because he wasn't as physically strong, the doctor told my grandfather, "This son of yours will need to learn a trade. He's not going to be a farmer. He needs some other kind of trade." And so because that son went to like a community college, to a trade school, and got some education, it opened the door for my father as well. And so my father really wanted to teach, and he became a school teacher, got a master's degree in education, but he always still was so tied to the land and to the farming and that background and that community. He always farmed in addition to teaching, and so I just remember he was always working, like one or the other, either teaching school. He was my school teacher when I was in 6th grade. I always like to send a little care package, or I did this last year too, to my son who's away at school in New York State, so that he can share with his friends. And I have invited a couple friends over later to, maybe help me make some little cards or and package the cookies up, and then we can, share them with friends and neighbors. As a college student, I went to spend a semester through my little liberal arts college with a program in Chicago called the Urban Life Center. And they would bring students from these small schools, most of them from really little communities, into the heart of Chicago for a semester. One of the parts of the program there was led by this lovely gentleman. Every weekend, he would send us to a different religious service or some location, around the city of Chicago, because it's extremely diverse, which for me was also an amazing thing. I had never done public transit or been in a large city before, and so he sent us to the Baha'i Temple in Wilmette, which is on the north edge of, the Chicago metropolitan area. The building itself and the grounds are so beautiful and just transcendent and very peaceful and restful. And when you walk into the main sanctuary, the gathering place, everyone from anywhere in the world can come and offer prayers from whatever faith they are. It really is a place for everyone to be welcome to gather and to remember God. And around the center were chiseled many very short verses of Baha'u'llah, or writings from the Baha'i faith. And I just recall reading a couple of those, so powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth. The earth is but one country and mankind its citizens. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is so hopeful and so beautiful. before the pandemic for a couple of years at least, every Thursday morning I would have like what I would call a little devotional gathering at my home. And some of my neighbors would come, and other friends of mine that I would invite would come to my house. And really the idea, there were several different things that I thought were important about that kind of a gathering. First of all, that people would have an opportunity to gather and to pray together. It was always open to anyone to bring any kind of prayer, any kind of writing from whatever faith background they wanted. And I was always looking for opportunities to show the commonalities, to show, what is it that we all believe is most important. Because when we get to those fundamental things of who are we really, we're spiritual beings, these are common to all the religions. We're spiritual beings, we're here for a purpose, which is to serve other people. So I met my now husband of more than 30 years when I was a freshman in college, and he was a transfer student. He came from California. His parents were also from the same Mennonite background, but were not practicing faith. And he came to Kansas to attend his parents' alma mater, which was this little Mennonite school. And he and I met that first year, and were sort of together ever after that. After college, we both moved to Wichita. We were living in separate places, but he was working as a musician, trying to make a living as a musician, and I was working at a bookstore there, and he was taking some music classes, some jazz classes at Wichita State University, where his jazz instructor and a couple of other members of a group that he was playing with were Baha'is. And they began to talk to him about the Baha'i faith. And I remember him, saying to me, I've been invited to come over to Craig's house, and they just to learn a little bit more about the Baha'i faith, and I would like to kind of go check it out. And I thought, I know a little about the faith, and I would like to learn more about that. And so we started going over to the Owens' home. It was kind of a place where a lot of people would gather, and because Craig was a teacher at the university and he knew a lot of young people, he would invite them over, and we would have these wonderful conversations about why are we here and what is our purpose in this world and how can we be of service and what are the things that are needed to bring about unity and peace in the world. And so the conversations were very deep and very meaningful, and they would share passages from the writings of the Baha'i faith, and I was so impressed with the way that they were raising their own children. They had 4 children, and just watching their interactions and the thoughtfulness of those young people, who were from high school. Like the oldest one was going into high school, and the youngest one was 2 or 3, I think, when we met them. At that point, I became really interested in the faith and started reading more about it and studying more carefully, reading the writings of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, and of Abdul-Baha, his son. You are so sweet. How are you doing? Are you okay?
Of course.
Good. I'm so happy to see you.
Exactly.
I love home visiting because in my community that I come from originally, that was definitely a thing that people used to do, And on the weekends especially, somebody might just drive onto the yard, and we would stop everything, and then we would say, who's here, right? And we would sit down and socialize, right? So this is the way that these relationships can be developed, and we're being encouraged, Baha'is are being encouraged to make these visits as a way to build unified communities and to really get to know other people. Tim and I had many conversations about the Baha'i faith during that time, and we're both so just engaged with that family and being there, and it led to many long conversations about the Baha'i faith. You know, we were not engaged at that point, but we were very committed to each other. It was really interesting because I felt like this was something that these beliefs and this way of looking at the world was something that really united us. At some point, I think Tim actually was the one who said, "Are we going to do this or not? Are we going to sign these cards?" And you know, and at that point I said, "You know, I think I'm ready to do that." And he and I had both decided over these months, you know, that this was something we really believed in. And so I do recall that we signed those cards together and we took them over to Craig and Liz's house. And it was only after that we met the rest of the Baha'i community, or really became involved in the activities of the community as a whole. This is Red Grammar's tune. It's called See Me Beautiful. See me beautiful, look for the best in me. It's what I really am and all I wanna be. It may take some time, it may be hard to find, but see me beautiful. See me beautiful each and every day. Could you take a chance? Could you find a way to see me shining through in everything I do, and see me beautiful? It's what I really am and all I wanna be. It may take some time, it may be hard to find, but see me beautiful. See me beautiful each and every day. Could you take a chance? Could you find a way to see me shining through in everything I do? See me beautiful. I built it with my sons and my friend and her son, right? It was sort of like a youth project with the adults, and it turned into way more work than we anticipated it would be. She was like, "Oh, you know, you can come over, we can build the box, whatever." And then we brought the box home, and my sons and I like stuccoed it, and then the shingling, and it turned into a big thing. But then her son and another member of his junior youth group, which are, you know, groups for kids between 11 and 15. So this, you know, friend and her son and his friend came, and they actually like helped us mount it and dug the hole, and so it was definitely like a community effort that involved like 6 or 7 different people to like put it up. Many people in the neighborhood have come by and we've had conversations about it, or they might bring books and leave them. Just actually yesterday, this guy walked by with his dog and he said, "That's such a nice thing that you've done." And I said, "No, really, it's so much fun just to like see what people leave and to have conversations with people who come by. It's like a little, you know, an exchange and a little service thing. And especially to see like children come and leave books and take books is really super fun for me." It Doesn't matter what happened in the past. If you're searching with your heart, the answer will come to you like a breeze.